No, Doug. No, I don't want to do a show. Doug, no, it's too early. No, Doug, no! Oh, hey, we're recording. Doug, why didn't you tell me we were recording? Jeez. Fucking Doug, eh? I don't know what I'm gonna do with that guy. Can't live without him. Can't live with him. I don't know. Anyways, that's enough messing around for today. I wasn't sure how I was going to start the show. And actually, I wasn't even sure if I was going to do it today. I was kind of not sure where I wanted to start. I did diet last week and I was going to continue on. And I was like, well, maybe do I feel like doing diet? Maybe I should do something else. Am I inspired to talk about that today? I don't even know if I want to do it. But our faith is in just showing up. And so today's Sunday and I want to do one a week, and I've missed a couple weeks here and there because of other things. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to show up and I'm going to trust that it'll all work out. And I wasn't sure how to start the show. And, and then, I don't know, all of a sudden the idea of pretending I was asleep came to me. I think I've done that once before, but maybe not that way. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining me. It's Rob here, Roberto, aka Robin Hood. We're on episode 10, I believe, 10 or 11. I don't know what it is, but today it's the Rob Anderson Show, Foundational Healing. This is going to be Diet Part 2, and today, so we're just going to kind of continue off from last week. As I mentioned, I was thinking about doing something different, and there was a little bit of resistance there, and I was looking at the notes and I said, why don't I just continue on that way for continuity's sake? It'll make sense for everybody. So today I wanted to start with diet and who decides how much we need. So if you grew up in Canada, I'm sure the American Food Guide might have been similar, but I was born in the 1980s and I'm pretty sure that the Canada Food Guide was trying to kill us all. But I was thinking about that, and I was talking about it with my mom, actually. We were cooking together one day and looking at recipes and things like that. And I think it was oatmeal even that morning. And she was saying, well, one serving. And I said, well, how much is one serving? And we poured it out. And I said, that seems like a lot. And I was like, who decides one serving anyways? Obviously the oatmeal company, because they want you to eat more of their product. So you have to be careful about who we're taking food advice from. If it's the people producing the product, of course, they want you to consume more. Fuck, if for them one serving would be one entire bag, So who decides how much we're supposed to eat? And why is that the recommended serving? Is it coming from the food companies, from doctors who are qualified to make those decisions, or our own selves, our own bodies? Maybe we should be the ones to decide how much one serving is. And I heard somewhere, I don't know if it was like a Chinese proverb or kind of like little words of wisdom, somewhere that I read, something that I picked up along the way. And it was, if you're eating consciously and slowly, then just eat till you're about 80% full. Don't gorge. I used to be a gorger, overeat. It was like feast or famine. Oh, I'm going to have seconds, just total reckless abandon with food. So if you eat consciously, slowly, with awareness, and I've heard that your stomach is about the size of your fist. So, if you make a portion, look at it depending on what you're eating and the density of it. If you're eating something like popcorn, obviously it's going to chew down and be a little bit more compact after you chew it. But something else, of a different density, you might be able to have less of it because it's a little denser. So it might fill you up quicker. But do little things like that, like be conscious of how much you're eating and listen to your body. I wasn't a body listener for many years. I was listening to the people, places, things, and programs, and just our cultural upbringing, and that's another thing too. I mentioned on the last show, it's been instilled into us. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, or at least that's kind of what I had always heard. And I think it was just strangely enough, synchronistically, that there was a lady talking about food on something I saw, I think 2 weeks ago. And apparently, she said, I haven't verified this, but I wouldn't doubt it, that breakfast is the most important meal of the day was actually a slogan from Kellogg's cornflakes back in like the 70s or 80s. So if anybody can confirm that, let me know, please. And I'll probably put it in my notes to check out later. But I wouldn't doubt it because so much of what we've been programmed or something that gets stuck in our head is repeated. And if it's something that's on a commercial that you grow up watching TV, or your parents do, it's going to be something that you hear all the time, and then boom, it's programmed into you. It's in you, and you don't even know why you know it, or where you heard it, or why you repeat it, or why you think it's relevant. And so it's like, yeah, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And if that commercial was running for a year or two back in the 80s, and everybody in, who's in your city or, family was watching that or heard it, and, generally, TV stations and programs, everybody in your city is probably kind of watching the same thing, especially back in the 80s before the internet. It was, radio and TV. That's where the main advertising was coming from. So we were all kind of running these programs or scripts in our mind that were basically from advertising, right? So breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Or, oh, you need your protein. And what's funny is I heard people say that. I hear people say it all the time. And then I was watching a movie, and my cousin Vinny, I might have mentioned this on a previous episode, but on there's the scene where they're talking in the store, and he's like, yeah, you need your protein. And it's like, how many people have adopted that saying, maybe because of that movie? And, back in even those days when movies came out, movies were much bigger back then. So, a lot of people were going to them, and a lot of people were picking up that programming. So we have to think about who wants us to eat? What does a serving, who wants us to eat and how much? And what does a serving entail? 3 meals a day. Even I've heard people talk about, 3 meals a day. That program is not really, it's probably developed by the food companies, not really an essential thing for and meals, like what does a meal entail? Maybe a meal is a banana, maybe it's a single egg. I think of meals as something that has like, you think of 3-course meals or whatever, like a meal has to be something with multiple things. Maybe a meal is just a handful of walnuts, an apple, a banana, yogurt with some granola in it. I don't know, whatever works for you. But when I think of meals, I used to think of, 3 meals of a day. I mentioned on my last episode that my first meal was a lot of times was a big breakfast, eggs, toast, hash browns, whatever. So all these things that we go back and question, why do we do what we do? Where did it come from? Where did we learn it? Where did we pick it up? Where did we hear it? And also, like the diet, what does our body really need? And looking at an elimination diet, as I mentioned on the previous episode, and then adding things back is very powerful. And so you don't necessarily maybe want to eliminate everything, but taking certain things out of your diet, really paying attention to your body and seeing how it makes you feel. Nowadays, and I mentioned on the previous episode too, when your baseline for feeling like crap all the time, you don't really notice the minor fluctuations and variations. So if you're kind of always feeling blah, you don't realize that maybe 2 pieces of bread is spiking your blood sugar and giving you building your insulin resistance and then crashing later. And so that, all turns into sugars. And so that's something that we're not really taught about. And so I think that it's really important to look at what we're eating and how it makes us feel, and being honest with ourselves about it. And does it give me acid reflux? Does it give me a carb coma? Does it make me feel hot? If I eat too much and your body has a hard time digesting it, it's going to take energy. We were raised thinking that you need food for energy, and that is maybe true to some degree. But I also have heard that, reading, I think it was Wallace Wattles, and he was the author of Think and Grow Rich, but he also had, I think it was the science, there was 2 different versions of the name of the book, but it was like the science of health and feeling good, or the science of eating and fasting, or whatever. I think there was 2 different versions of the name of the book, but he spoke about a guy who was a bodybuilder, and he would eat, I think it was only like 3 days a week, and then he would fast the rest of the day. But in that book, and I've heard other places it echoed in similar areas that the average American diet, which you could say Canadian too, is we on average we eat probably we could probably survive. So maybe look at it this way: we could probably survive from a tenth to one third of the food that we currently consume. So depending on what you're doing, if you're doing something that's very physical and you're burning a lot of energy and stuff like that, you might need to eat a little bit more. But the average person could probably survive on a third of the food they're eating. So it's not just only what we're eating, but how much of it, right? So I used to be having bread. Sometimes I would be having bread 3 meals a day, 2 pieces of toast with my breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, and then, maybe a piece of pizza or a bun with dinner. Like, oh my God, like I'm surprised I'm alive right now to even be delivering this message to you. So let me just look at the notes here. Yeah. So too much bread, too many carbs, too much sugar, all that stuff. And it kind of creates, I was listening to something this morning and the person said, once you start eating, and especially if it's like alcohol, if you've ever looked at like the half-life of the effects of alcohol, that's why drinking, you keep wanting to have another beer after 45 minutes because, you kind of get that buzz and then it starts dropping and wearing off. So if you have another one, it's kind of, you keep that level going out. And that's how it is with food too, someone was saying. And I thought that was interesting too. So if you're spiking your blood sugar first thing in the morning and then you start crashing, it's like, well, you need something to sustain it and bring it back up. So you're kind of going through the day in these peaks and valleys and so that's kind of like duality, the up and down, swinging of the pendulum, or however you want to look at it. And so, buzz, rush, high, then crash. And so if you're going through the day like that, it's kind of your energy's up, down, up, down. So looking at what you can do to have a more neutral, balanced, flowing, consistent energy where it's not the peaks and the crashes. So really being honest with yourself and kind of having fun with it and saying, okay, I noticed that when I ate this happened. Keep a logbook if you want to. Do what you got to do. And so where else? What else am I? So that how much we eat. And so and looking at it as an energetic perspective rather than calories and caloric intake, because I was also listening to somebody, they said the other day too, that if you eat a big meal, it actually takes like 1,200 calories to digest the meal. So what are you eating? If you're eating something like a big pasta, and then it's digesting it and it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value in it in the first place, like a lot of vitamins and minerals and what your body actually needs, and it's just fill and it's just eating good, you got to eat up lots of pasta or whatever Italian people say it. I like the spicy meatball. But I used to be the kind of person that would eat a whole plate of pasta with a piece of toast and like, oh my God, or a bun or something. Like, it's just crazy that I can't even fathom, or eating a whole pizza to myself. What the fuck? It's crazy. So looking at what we're eating and how it's affecting us. And also, so in that book too, that Wallace Wattles book, he was speaking that, and I kind of echo this sentiment and kind of realize that he said that we don't necessarily get as much energy as we're taught to believe from food. We don't need food for energy. We have life force energy. It's coming in through us automatically. And so a lot of the energy that we think we need from food, like in order to generate into energy, is kind of maybe exaggerated because they want you to eat more. They want you to eat more. And so that really the purpose of eating from that perspective is to rebuild our physical structure, the matter that we're made out of, that makes our bones, all the stuff that creates our universe that is our body and our physical structure. That's what we need. The food is to replenish our physical structure to manifest here in this realm, frequency, earth, whatever you want to call it. And I thought that was, that's like one of those aha moments. And I only learned that a few years ago, that yeah, the food is to rebuild our physical structure, not necessarily to give us energy. Because if we needed food for energy, you would have to eat as soon as you got out of bed to get more energy, kind of thing, right? And that's not necessarily the truth. We are, getting some energy from the food, but it's really more to rebuild our physical structure. So if you look at it from that perspective, I know that when I started, I always used to wake up with And so be conscious of what you're saying and the things, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I need my protein, or I need to eat breakfast. And I used to always think that, but I probably, as I mentioned on the previous episode, that a lot of times if you're dehydrated, hunger pangs and thirst pangs can be the same thing. So a lot of times when you wake up and you feel really hungry, are you actually hungry, or are you just thirsty? Are you just dehydrated? So that's another thing to ask, because I always used to think that, like, oh, I need to eat before I go do stuff during the day or I won't have energy. And that's not the case, because if you eat a massive meal and it's taking 1,200 calories to digest that meal and not replenishing, the energetics behind it, you're actually probably, if you have a big meal like that, you actually feel kind of like sleepy and stuff after a meal. So how is that affecting and being an effective start to the day? So, and I realized that because when I started my intermittent fasting, I could wake up, maybe have a glass of water with some salt just to kind of get the electrolytes going, go for a jog. The other day I went for a few bike rides, and I didn't even have, I think I had the first little bit of, I might have had a coffee or whatever with honey and some cinnamon and salt, sea salt, but I didn't even have anything to eat till I think 2 p.m. where I had a banana and some peanut butter. And so I went on, several kilometer bike ride, and went about with really good energy. So, and that's the thing. So if you really look at intermittent fasting and watching your energy levels rather than your conditioning, programming, and belief systems around food, and just experimenting with it and seeing, is what I've been taught, is what I believe, is what I was raised on, conditioned, programmed, indoctrinated into, is it true for me? And I think that's what a lot of the doing this is trial and error and seeing, and it takes, you're not going to know it in one sitting. You're not going to know it going through one little thing, because there's different variables to what you're doing, how you're doing it. Sorry, I'm just checking my time here to make sure I set my timer so I don't ramble for too long. But maybe one day you're not feeling well, so you're not going to really notice how the foods are affecting you. So do it, process over the time, elimination, adding things back, taking things away, doing things differently, trying things at different time, and not creating this, don't make it into a problem. Make it into like your own curriculum, your own fun, your own experiment, trying to figure out what's best for you. And don't beat yourself up if you're falling back into bad patterns. Just try to turn it, like make it exciting, make it meditative, make it a little bit more sacred. So, like instead of just opening a bag of potato chips and scarfing them down when you're super hungry, say, you know what, I'm going to just do it a little more consciously. Sit down, pour them into a bowl, just a little more mindful rather than just, snarfing back a bunch of chips like I used to do, like unconsciously. So yeah, doing things like that. What else? So what did I want to talk to about? Yeah, so energetics behind the food too. So most of the food that I grew up, I heard somebody say, and I don't know if I mentioned in these episodes, but pretty much everything on the internal aisles at a grocery store is not food. The outside aisles, to some degree, maybe not all the frozen stuff, but the healthy foods, the vegetables, the stuff that is a very short shelf life, which even vegetables and stuff like that are grown to last longer, and there's waxes and preservatives to keep them from spoiling and staying ripe longer, which I won't get into that. But if you are going to start somewhere, it's like maybe cut out the center aisles of all the processed crap in the grocery store and shop from the outside, the fresher things, the things that are, kept cool, or that have that perish quicker, because even that, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. I mean, I might need to do a third episode on diet. So what do we eat and why? And so where does our food come from? And I might have mentioned on the previous episode, organic and the farmer's market. And even in Ontario, one lady said that legally they have to still use 2 pesticides. I'm not sure what they were. So even what's classified here as organic still has 2 pesticides. So it's like even the healthiest food that we think we're getting organic, we don't know how healthy it actually is. And if we start looking rather than at it from a perspective of energetics and the energy in the food, behind the food, where it came from, rather than just the caloric intake and things like that, and how many calories. It's like, I don't even know what a calorie is, and I'm sure you can look at it, the joules, and you can explain the energy expenditure and all that stuff. That's great, but is it as important as the energetics behind the food? And what do I mean by that? If you've ever read the Anastasia books, the Ringing Cedar series. Very interesting stuff today in there. And she says a quote that I always remembered is that the food today is unfit for human consumption because it's food that is generated for profit. So even the healthiest food, the healthiest organic food, if it's grown with large plot farming with the intent for being sold to us for profit, it's not really energetically fit for us. It's not really that healthy. Sure, will it sustain us? Yeah. Will it not kill us? Yeah, it might sustain us, but maybe we're not living as long as we're supposed to. Who says that the average lifespan of 70 to 80 years is actually, to us, that we seem, oh yeah, like we call it old age, it's been programmed into us, but in the Bible and previous sacred texts and things like that, and in ancient cultures, there was people that said they lived to be 300 to 900 years old. Maybe they weren't counting time the way we are today, but maybe they were. But they ate healthier foods. They didn't have as much electronic interference, sound pollution, noise pollution, just chaotic radiations and signals from all over the place. So maybe people were living to that age. Maybe they were because life was less hectic. They were growing their own foods, and that's what it says in that book, which is a fantastic series. So if you haven't read it, I would highly suggest reading it. It's really good. I found a lot of value from it, a lot of things that resonated with me. But in there, it talks that we should be growing our own food, and that's almost a whole episode in itself, where you're gardening yourself. You're putting the seeds under your tongue, as I've mentioned before, for 9 minutes, and then taking them out and holding them between your palms, and then blowing on them and putting them into the ground. And so that seed has taken the information from your body, from your DNA. It knows, and it takes the information and it knows what you need, what you might be lacking, what you might have too much of. So it grows with the intent to nourish you specifically. And they even say in that book to have a shower and wash and collect the water and water your garden with the water from your body, because the oils and the toxins and everything, all the information that gets washed from you down into the water will be passed along into the garden, into the soil around, and that will give further information and on an ongoing basis to what you need, what your body's going through. If you have an ailment coming on, we can give you more of this. So the food will, just like, creation, God, nature, universal intelligence, existence itself is so much more intelligent than the people fucking pumping food products, telling us to eat whoever knows how much their serving is so they can plug us up and sell us more. The creation, and that, like I was saying, is just so intelligent. The infinite intelligence in nature is so much more amazing than the average person in the Western culture has been led to believe. All these forgotten things or hidden things from us that we're coming to re-know. And so it's like, yeah, this year it's like, I want to grow my own food. I want to start learning how to plant things, because that food is made specifically for you. It's you're growing it with your own loving intention. You're caring for it. You're watching it grow. You're excited. You're like, wow, you're amazed in wonderment about the power of nature, and just the fact that this tiny seed can grow into this life-giving thing that's going to give you back the energetics and love that you gave to it. Like, how amazing is that? That's just mind-blowing, unfathomable, incomprehensible, that those are the gifts that we have been given naturally, and yet we're going and buying Kellogg's fucking cornflakes because breakfast is the most important meal a day, that they've been pumping out to us on commercials for God knows how long. That's ingrained into our parents, and maybe their parents even to some degree, ever since there was the television, broadcasting signals to everybody, manipulating us for how long now? And so I guess I'm getting a little off topic there now, right? But diet is what we take into our system. So it's what comes in us either from food or through our eyes. So I guess television has been part of our diet too. So our sickness is not only from what we've been consuming internally from food, but also internally through our eyes and through our programs, which have been flashed into our cells of our body through our eyes and brain and imprinted upon us. So we're changing our diet. And so eliminating not only the foods that we intake, but some of the programming that we've been conditioned to as well is part of the diet and part of healing. So let's see what else we got going on there. What did I not hit? What did I not touch on this week? Oh yeah, and so energetics, right? Growing our own food. Um, what was the intention behind the food? Is it profit, or is it for nourishment and sustaining our physical vessel and giving us the energy and clarity and function we need? And if you even really start studying this stuff, back, in that book it says that even when the earth was pristine, maybe in the Garden of Eden, as you think of it, or on a planet or part of the earth where there was no pollution, there was no everything was just so at one with nature, and the pollens in the air, and it was so fresh that people literally survived off the air. They were breatharians because they didn't need to sustain, they didn't need any outside sources of food to really sustain themselves. They might eat some berries and mushrooms and prepare some foods and just kind of just eat for the experience of it, the flavors, maybe to, some herbs and spices to kill it, or kill a certain bacteria, or heal an ailment. But generally you didn't really need to eat in a pristine, perfect environment with no outside influence. And I think that's a pretty interesting concept, and it's not that far-fetched that if you were born and raised in a perfect environment, that maybe the environment itself would sustain you. So anyways, I just thought that was interesting to throw in there too. So what is the energetics behind the food we're consuming? And so, as I've mentioned on previous episodes about restructuring your water, commanding your water to heal and balance it and remove anything that is not authentically from source, or to infuse it with peace energetics and creation, and do the same with your food. I started healing and balancing my food and asking Prime Creation to remove anything harmful, any harmful frequencies, or anything that is not authentically from source. So the power of our intention and our vibration, and the energetics behind our voice and our words, and if it's coming from the mind or the heart. So do the mind to heart drop before you bless it. Don't try to use your mind and project anything into it. Just do it from a place of innocence, perfect peace and love, and the wanting and the ability to just be sustained so you can enjoy a wonderful life. And that's part of foundational healing, because if we've been eating crappy foods and intaking crappy programs and signals and whatever, music and all that stuff, then part of our foundational healing is eliminating that and kind of restructuring our own internal foundation, which is our body, and everything inside of it, so that what is inside of us is manifest and cleaned out, and that'll manifest outwardly in the world that we co-create together. So I don't know, I can't remember. I was rewatching. Sometimes I rewatch the previous episodes, sometimes I don't, because I just want to move forward and create in the moment. So if I've repeated anything, then let's just consider a review. But one thing I did want to talk about, and I can't recall if I did, is becoming a vegetarian. And so I think in 2011 or something, I watched this video called Meet Your Meat. So like meat, like hello, shaking hands, so MEET, meet your MEAT. So Meet Your Meat. And it was like a half-an-hour documentary, and it just broke my heart, like seeing how they treated animals. And obviously they were showing the worst case examples, so you got to be careful with everything you take in. But the meat at the grocery store, unless you know how it's cared for, how it's raised and all that stuff, and a lot of times we don't. It's becoming more prominent in, sorry, that's my timer. It's becoming more prominent in today's world, because things are coming to light and people are understanding and becoming more consciously aware of what they're taking in. But you don't know what the meat at the grocery store, the mystery meat, how it was raised, how it was treated, how it was slaughtered. And I saw this Meet Your Meat documentary. I don't know if it's still out there, but it was just so sad seeing how they treated the animals, how they were slaughtered, how they were rounded up, and just the conditions that they were kept in. And it was like, I can't participate in that anymore. It made me physically ill to my stomach. I just couldn't do it. I remember I got home, it was a Friday, and I showed my brother, and he was like, I can't do it either. And we became vegetarians for like 8 months after that. And it's difficult when you switch up your diet, and like you're from a family of meat eaters and all that stuff, and people start questioning you, kind of making fun of you, poking jabs at you. And when you're a younger kid, if your parents are giving you a hard time about it, sometimes you wonder, oh, maybe they're right to, maybe I'm wrong, like everybody else eats meat, maybe I shouldn't. But I just couldn't do it. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I'm not eating meat. I'm not eating that. And eventually I went to my stepsister and brother-in-law's engagement party, and it was this amazing huge soiree in their backyard, a big Italian family, and there was just so much meat there, and I was making stone fired pizzas from scratch, and I was like, I'm back, baby, I can't say no to this, because it was it was like I just fell back to the old patterns and behaviors, but it gummed me up for 3 days. I was constipated for 3 days, so my body didn't agree with what I ate and how much I ate of it. But after that, I started trying to buy more organic meats, stuff that was healthy raised. So you can go to, find healthier farms that raise their beef differently, things like that. And so do your own research. And then again, so I started eating meat again for, after 8 months, probably for up until, another almost, geez, 12 years. And recently in the past few years, I've been whittling it away more and more. So, and I don't mind maybe once in a while if I go eat, like, if they're a hunter and they've, killed meat themselves and done all that stuff and it led a good life, then the energetics are much healthier, much better. I'm not opposed to it. I don't like being this strict thing, but I really just, nowadays, I don't like, it's just not part of the energetics behind it. Like, how did that thing live? Even the food, even our fruits and vegetables, how did it live? Where did it come from? It was shipped across, there's foods from other sides of the world, shipped down from the same continent. It wasn't picked ripe, and it was just haphazardly thrown into trucks, and it's just thrown around. The energetics behind it, it was not treated with love. So and probably a lot of the meat that we eat isn't either. So it's not just the meat, it's all the foods that we eat. What are the energetics behind it, right? And so I don't really eat meat much anymore. And it's like, I feel like I wouldn't want something eating me. So why would I want to eat something else? Like, I wouldn't want some fucking other being, us eating us. Like, we're just like, hey, like cows in a field, and then they slaughter us one day. Hey, I wonder what's in this strange building, and everybody's getting slaughtered and then shipped out, and other beings are eating them. That to me is just weird. So anyways, that's just kind of how I feel about it. So I've been whittling away meat from my diet, and I don't really participate with it so much anymore, and I'm not noticing any deficiencies in my life. I'm not noticing, you can find protein in other places. I've seen a couple different things, and people talking about that pound per pound, or per weight, that broccoli actually contains more protein than meat does. So it's not necessarily a thing of protein. And people say, oh, vitamin B12. Well, you can find those things in other places. So just make sure you're balancing your own diet. Consult a physician, get lots of opinions, maybe check with a couple different doctors, naturopaths. There's a lot of information out on the internet these days, which can be overwhelming, and we don't know. But do what feels right with yourself. Trust your spirit, trust your own inner guidance, trust your inner physician, trust your body, trust yourself, and I think that's the best advice that you can do. I can give is go within. Trust yourself, the physician within. Stay with your own consciousness, with how it's making you feel. Because I know growing up, we see other people eating stuff, and it's like, well, because they're adults, we think that's how we have to eat, and we don't really understand that they're overweight, they're obese, that what they're eating is not healthy, and so you're eating that growing up, thinking like, oh, is this how I'm supposed to be? And then you see somebody else who's like super in shape, and you just think, well, you don't know what they're eating. So you think that maybe there's just fat people, and maybe there's just people that are in shape, but it has so much to do with what we're eating and the exercise and the type of life we're living, if it's sedentary or very active. So all those things add up, right? So I think I've covered everything I wanted to today. Have fun with it. Explore. That's what we're here to do, is explore, have fun, play, dance, sing, be joyous. And life's not supposed to be a grind, and it is, and it has been for a lot of people. But we're moving into new earth energies, and that's a story, a whole topic for another day. But it's really about recreating ourselves and letting go of the past, and letting go of the programs, patterns, behaviors, habits, addictions, conditionings, indoctrinations, everything that we've been raised with, and saying we get to choose now. We get to decide. We get to start over. We get to start fresh. We get to look at our lives and say, how do become that which you wish to be? Is where you are now what you dreamed of as a kid? What is, like, how did we get here? That's happened to me. That's what made me change my diet, was looking in the mirror honestly, and I didn't even see myself, and it was like seeing myself for the first time. I saw that kid inside of me, and I started crying, thinking like, how the fuck did I get here? How did I get to this obese 250-pound monster that I see in the mirror? Like, I didn't look in the mirror. I didn't see myself because I didn't even want to admit where I was. And for the first time, I looked at myself saying like, what's going on here? And that was the first time and the last time that I'm ever going to be in that shape or condition in this lifetime. I promise you, I'm not going back there ever again. So wherever you are today is where you're starting, and just make that commitment to yourself that I'm never going to look in the mirror again and see this person. And that person that you see isn't you anyways. And it's the person that was created or conditioned or that you turned into. But who we are at our core essence, the consciousness, the creation, the energy, the awareness, the observer behind it, that's who we truly are. It's like we're the universe, source, divinity experiencing itself. So don't ever beat yourself up or be too hard on yourself, because none of what you see in the mirror when you're looking at yourself is who you truly are. It's just the experience. It's the flesh suit. It's the role you came to play for a little bit here, the game you came to play, the avatar you picked to be manifest here in this realm or frequency, or whatever it is we're calling Earth. So that's all it is. Just have fun with it and don't identify with the previous story that got you where you are today, because it's changeable. Everything is changeable. And so it's not your destiny. You're not that, wherever you are today isn't who you are, and you can change it. And so I hope you have fun with it. I think that's about my time today. And so I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys very much for joining me. And I really appreciate the people, throw a comment down or reach out to me. I know that you'll find me if you really want to. And I haven't put my name, my email address in the comment section. I'm going to do that to a specific email so that you guys can reach out. I know that not everybody wants to do comments publicly and stuff, and that's totally understandable. I get that. It's not for everyone, and I probably will at some point. I'll be like signing off and moving to the forest as well. But for today, I'm here sharing this experience with you guys, and I hope it provides value for you, because that's all the whole purpose is the process of doing it. It's helping me heal, and I hope it gives and inspires other people to do the same, because it's important, and it's important to me, and I hope it's important to you, because life is worth living, and I didn't always feel that way, and it's much more grand and such a crazier, vaster experience than we were ever led to believe. So if you're in a dark place, it's time to light up that dark and bring it into the light of awareness and the light of presence. And the light of consciousness. So the old is crumbling away, the old mind energy, the old darkness, all that's going away. And these are our first steps, one by one, living in the present moment. Thank you for joining me. I love you guys so much. And until next week, just fucking be awesome. All right. Peace out, everybody.